So tell us what's in store for the 2019 fire season.
Hi there. So what it looks like is that we're actually going to see kind of average conditions for the next little bit here. We're going to then see an increased risk in June and July in British Columbia again, unfortunately. And then it's looking like it's going to then expand kind of into the prairie provinces for August.
Lovely. So there's lots of people who say that this is a result of climate change, that we've got increased fire risk. Is that the case?
Yes, definitely, I would say. So what we're seeing now is a trend to more frequent fire events. And we're also seeing an increased risk to Indigenous communities. So what our research projections are showing is that we're going to be seeing a substantial risk in the next 50 to 100 years to especially First Nation reserves that are located in the forest.
So and what's being done to provide help for these communities as we're looking forward at this kind of impending doom?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say, like, one thing that I would point out is that, Indigenous communities are resilient and have survived with wildland fire in Canada since time immemorial. So that's one positive that we have, and what we're doing now is trying to really bring that local knowledge or Indigenous knowledge to managing fire risk around communities. And the federal government is also, putting in some budget money to help with fire smart mitigation around communities too. So I think for me, like, my hope lies in, restoring and bringing back burning to the land, training Indigenous firefighters.
So you had said about a traditional Indigenous knowledge brought to firefighting. Can you give us an example of what some of that looks like?
Yeah, so one of the projects that we're working on right now is revitalizing cultural burning practices. So working with communities in British Columbia, mostly, to bring back kind of their knowledge from their elders and fire keepers onto the land. And so what that looks like is, bringing back burning for moose habitat, for improving berry patches, so kind of these low understory birds. And what those do is they get rid of the fuel load, and therefore they have a cultural objective, but then they also reduce wildfire risk and make it easier to fight forest fires.
Is this cutting edge to bring Indigenous knowledge to firefighting? This is the first I've heard of it, but am I out of the loop?
Well, no, I think, that we have, like, our nations have been firefighting for a long time, but when settlers came, then they said that they had kind of, fire basically went with a Western knowledge system then of fire suppression. And I think what we're seeing is that that's not working on the landscape. And I think that there's a real hunger for Indigenous knowledge, to come back and see how we can better prepare our communities for fire, and, how Indigenous people for so long lived successfully with fire.
I love this.
To me, that's exciting.
And what else what would be your advice to people who are living in rural areas where you're at risk of forest fires this season? What advice would you offer to people?
Yes, I would say, contact your local fire chief if you're really nervous to get advice on, things that you can do around your property or in your community. Some things can be as simple as, moving a wood pile or clearing up debris and deadfall around your house or watering your lawn. Like, there are some quite easy things that you can do to reduce risk. There's also, I would point people to the Fire Smart Canada program. Right now, they don't have an Indigenous-focused product there, but we're actually working with Indigenous people across the country to develop one that will be released in the fall. So I think, I would point people there and also to their elders in their community, that have successfully survived fire for a long time.
I love this. Amy, thanks so much for taking the time to share this advice with us.
Okay, thank you so much. Nice to see you.